Hey, hello.
Hello, how's it going?
Oh, thank you very much. Quite fine. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Nice to change things.
So, hi, this is Zsolt here from the Hungarian metal webzine coronasports.com, and it's a great pleasure to talk to you on a video call. It's been a long time since you started the band, and it's always a pleasure to see something new from My Dying Bride. Uh,
That's an interesting background that you have.
oh yeah, I'm glad that you like it.
I didn't say that.
Anyway, to this day, most metalheads jump on their feet when they hear your name, and it's a great thing and great pleasure. Is this what you wanted to achieve when you were a little child back then? Did you think that one day you will be able to influence so many people and play in such an influential band?
No, I had no concept of that. Absolutely not. When I first got the desire, the sort of really the sort of fire was lit to be in a band. I just wanted to be in a band. I didn't really think any further than that, I have to admit. And while being in a band very early on with My Dying Bride and a small demo band before that, I we all had these strange dreams of being basically Iron Maiden and and those kind of things and Metallica's of the day. But we didn't really expect. I mean, we haven't become those, but we never really thought any further than that. Uh, and we never really expected. I certainly never expected to be this far in. 34 years I think it is now, and I certainly wouldn't have expected anybody being influenced by what we were doing. We were being influenced by other bands. We understood that, but I never thought it would be the other way around.
And the band has been around for more than 30 years in such a long time. A lot of things might have happened in your life, and these kind of things have had an impact on your musical creations. And I wonder how many Andrew Craighan has created those 15 albums, including the current one, paralleling the story of your life. How tight would you describe the connection between the music and your life?
Well, the music in that I create in many respects is part of my life. It is intrinsically linked to me. How many different versions as we go through time? That's a good question. I wouldn't know that. Potentially, maybe 15 different, because each album's different. So I would imagine there's a different me on each one, but obviously they're very much linked. There's no denying that or trying to escape that. It's a good question. It's an interesting question. But I reckon I am this type of music now. I'm not pretending this. I mean, we never really were. But if I was to be dropped out of My Dying Bride and say, let's start another band, it would sound like My Dying Bride straight away. There's no, I mean, it just what this is all I do. Thankfully, it fits in a realm that we call doom metal and that kind of thing and heavy metal. So I kind of, I don't know if it was by design or God's grace or just natural selection of riffs, whatever you want to call it. This music is me and I am it.
I understand you. Actually, you and Aaron are the founders and masterminds of the band. Can you tell me a little bit of the relationship between the two of you? How is it that you guys can work so well together? What kind of values would you highlight in the connection between you?
I think it's a tricky one because we do very different jobs in the band, if you know what I mean. I do well pretty much most of the music, and I do all of the behind the scenes work as well. And Aaron comes in and does the face of the band and the vocal, most of the vocals, and obviously all of the lyrics. So I think it's the between the two of you that there's no, I'm not stepping on his toes, he's not stepping on mine, because they're very different jobs. That simplifies things. And what also makes it easier, I suppose, is that we know. I think since Turn Loose the Swans or Angel in the Dark River, that going back in time, we understood pretty clearly. I mean, it didn't always go this way, but we kind of had an idea, or I certainly did, uh, what My Dying Bride should be and how far we can push this, musically and those kind of things. So we understand each other. But I mean, I do my parts, he does his. It's very straightforward. There's no sort of ethereal magic to it. It's very, well, I won't say mechanistic, but it's quite pragmatic. You know, I sit here and dream my dreams and create the music based on those. I know what type of lyrics are coming. I know what type of titles are coming. In fact, some of the titles on the new album are mine. I mean, so we write to my titles and then bring the lyrics in later on. So it's fairly easy. I mean, it's I don't know. It's like two different parts of the same machine. I mean, you don't want certain parts doing that job because they're not ready for it or prepared for it or geared properly for it. So it's very straightforward.
I understand. If I'm not mistaken, let's just talk about a little bit about your guitar. It's a Mayon's Regis guitar. What would you say about this guitar? How loyal are you to this particular manufacturer, and what do you feel when you hold this guitar in your hand?
Well, I love them, if truth be known. I think they're brilliant, and I don't I don't have to say that. I'm not endorsed by them officially. I just use them now.
Mhm.
I was endorsed by them many years ago, but they became very big, and My Dying Bride is very small, so we don't do that no more. But I just love them. I wouldn't change guitar even if I had the opportunity. I just think that they haven't lost in my opinion, they haven't lost touch with the guitarist yet. Now, some larger companies will sort of focus on very famous guitarists and be very attentive to them. And I can name a company that's not being attentive to Neil, the other guitarist. Whereas my own is still at the size where each guitar, because I have about 8 of these now, or something like that. But each guitar feels special to me, as if it was built just for me. And some of mine were built just for me, but that's not the point. And I just think they're well made. I just think they're well put together, well crafted, robust, because we have to have, they get bumped around a bit because we have to fly everywhere, and even though they're in special flight cases. So I love them. I think they're excellent pieces of equipment, and as far as I'm aware, I have no desire to change, none at all.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. Compared to the 90s, there are considerably more bands around in the world, but it can still be said that there is no one else like My Dying Bride. That's actually my personal opinion, and I find it a very big deal that you managed to preserve your uniqueness. Also, a lot of people love you right from the very, very beginning. My question is, in what extent can you agree with these statements? What do you think?
I I tend to believe that, but I don't know why, because My Dying Bride is not a particularly difficult band to copy. You know, we play deliberately simple riffs. We're not trying to be overcomplicated. We're not certainly not Yngwie Malmsteen or anything like that. You know, we're not trying to be, better or more sort of virtuistic guitarist stylists than we are. We're solid doom metal band. Anybody could do what we're doing. Why or how we've managed to, or the claim is that we are still very unique. I mean, people have been saying we could tell it was My Dying Bride straight away, and you think, well, is that good or is that bad? Now it works for AC/DC. When you hear AC/DC, you know it's AC/DC, and same for
Yeah.
Slayer, which is good. I mean, I enjoy that, but it would be difficult for me as an insider to honestly and genuinely believe that we are so very different in that way. But this is what we get told, and I quite like the idea, so I'm not going to argue with these people.
I see. Your current album is entitled The Mortal Binding, and it will be released on the 19th of April via Nuclear Blast. Also, already 2 videos have been made for the album. Of course, we get touching melancholy and melodies by listening to the new records. What would you say about this new album and the new songs?
Well, the 2 songs that have been released don't completely represent the music on the album, but I mean, particularly the second of Three Bells, that's the only one like that on the album. Uh, the rest, we deliberately wrote the album with a little bit more teeth, let's say. There's a little bit more ferocity in some of the riffs. It's not, I mean, it's not Cannibal Corpse or anything like that. But I mean, it's still My Dying Bride. But there's a bit more to, we decided that we wanted heavier riffs. And also that we wanted riffs like on Ghost of Orion, the album we released 4 years ago now. There are some big atmospheric sections in that and dark ambient moments. And we didn't want to go there again on this one. So we've written quite deliberately what hopefully are good riffs, big riffs, and kept the harmonies to a minimum to allow the violin to breathe a little bit. And also in some places remove the guitar and just replace it with feedback to allow the bass guitar a little bit more space, just so we've got an all-encompassing. And we wanted it to be a band, 2 guitars, bass, drums and vocals, both with keys and violins in our case. There's no special effects, no special musicians, no extra female vocals. It's not quite rock and roll. It's our version of rock and roll. And it was, I guess, to summarize, I probably should have just said we've tried to go back to basics, keep it, even though we didn't realize it, that like the first couple of albums are fairly simple, really. And we thought, well, we don't need to, play around too much. We did a lot of that on the Ghost of Orion, so we didn't want to do it again. So we just went back to basics. But one of the things I will say is we deliberately tried to fashion the riffs so they would suit death metal vocals, because we are, the musical side of the band particularly, still very fond of death metal vocals. And we tried to trap Aaron into having no room for clean vocals, but it didn't work. Anyway, we tried, but so we deliberately guided some of the riffs to be heavy, powerful, which demanded, in our mind, it demanded death metal vocals, and we think we got there. In fact, I think that the balance is pretty good.
I see. Talking a little bit about the new release, which previous album would you compare it to the most? Do you think it can be appropriate if I describe it as some kind of a mixture of The Light at the End of the World and Like Gods of the Sun?
That, I never thought about that, actually. That would make sense if you could pour the pair of them into one glass. You might do this. Yeah, I can see why people might say that. I would struggle to say which ones were, whether that would absolutely be true, though. For me, I think it's probably closer a mix of the last two, where Feel the Misery and Ghost of Orion kind of get brought together and I made a little bit more broader, a little not as dark and not as atmospheric and a little bit punchier. But like Gods of the Sun and the Light, that works. That would be a good album.
Actually, how does it feel to see all those My Dying Bride albums on your shelf? Do you still look at them, hold in your hand a lot? If yes, what kind of memories do they bring back?
Yeah, I don't do that. No, I mean, obviously, I'm constantly reminded I'm in the band. There's no avoiding that. But I tend to, and this might sound strange, because I have a normal job, so I go to work and I come home like everybody else. So I forget. I honestly, you just do normal things, and then you'll walk past something that reminds you that you were in God knows where doing a gig to 10,000 people, and you think, oh yeah, we do that. I do that, and so it becomes very normalized and very grounded. So I certainly don't feel like a rock star or any different from anybody else. But there are certain moments, like I was looking, I was preparing for these interviews and I was looking for some stuff, and I remembered that the Ghost of Orion was, and I thought, I forgot about this. And there's a couple of songs on there that I haven't listened to for a while. So I had a quick listen and I thought, you know what, I forgot how good they were. So I do, and it's not because I'm old, well, it might be. I just tend to, we're so busy all the time. I just forget, you just forget how busy you've been. 30 years is a long time. And it shocks you sometimes, or it shocks me, just how busy and how sort of fruitful this band has been, really, with the albums we've done and what we've done. But I tend to look back, just to answer your question, with mostly fond memories. It's been very hard behind the scenes. It's been hard work in places, but I think Bon Scott said it's a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll.
Yeah,
now,
sure.
anybody that listens to that song will understand that it's tough being in a band. But overall, I can't complain.
This year you already participated at a big event, the 70,000 Tons of Metal Festival. How would you describe your experiences about it? How did it feel to hang out with the fans on that cruise ship? How would you describe those days?
Well, hanging out with the fans is easy because I look like everybody else on that boat. Just some guy with a beard and long hair. We all look the same. So nobody knows who I am. And some of the girls look like me as well, and nobody knows who they were. So
Uh,
for me, it's easy. I just wander around and no one cares. But the cruise is phenomenal. It's difficult to fully wrap your head around. Yeah, size of a ship. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. It's like a spaceship. It's enormous. There isn't a word describing it. It's fucking massive. And then when you play, we play on the top deck, which is outside, and then we play inside, which is almost like a London theatre. It's so well put together. I know, and you can't tell the ship's moving. You can't tell. It's so big. But playing outside on the top deck is interesting because it's in the wind and all those kind of things. But you just shake your head. You just can't. I still am flabbergasted that there we were on this gigantic ship out in the Caribbean with all these heavy metalers, and it's if whoever gets a chance to go, if they get a chance, go. I trust me, go. Man alive, it's something else. And
it's a bit further from Europe, so it's not easy, but yeah.
no, it's not, and it's a long, boring flight there and a
Mm.
longer back, but it's worth it. It's worth the trouble. And if you're a band, especially, go. All right, there are some bands that might not necessarily enjoy. There's no backstage, so you're out with everybody else. But unless you're really famous, and My Dying Bride isn't, you don't get. I mean, no one. I think I was recognized once, uh, and the
Mm.
guy said, "Are you Andrew from My Dying Bride?" And I said, "Yeah." He says, "Yeah, because you look like him." I said, "Hey, there might be a reason for that."
Yeah, but this indicates that a lot of people in Europe and all over the world love you. I'm sure that a lot of people will be also curious to hear the new songs live, not only just in the cruise ship, but everywhere in the world. How many concerts are you planning this year? Where do you plan to appear? Are you looking forward, for example, the Brutal Assault Festival?
Well, it's going to be tricky because we don't do many gigs anyway, so there's also that.
Yeah.
Uh, and the gigs we have are sort of people are, we're always looking forward to trying new places and that kind of thing, but we tend to play the same places because that's where the good festivals are. So for us, it'll just be very much, I don't know, I think business as usual. Like I said, we work for a living, so there's no sort of a mortal binding world tour or anything like that. So at the moment, we take the gigs as and when they come, and if we can get there, we can, and if we can't, we sadly we can't. But it's difficult for us, particularly, well, having full-time jobs, and some of the other members have side projects as well now, which is
Mhm.
you have to balance the time, which is getting trickier. I mean, it is what it is. Lots of bands have side project bands now, so we have to balance that as well. So I think the gigs might, particularly for this year, they might get slimmed down a little bit, but then we'll pick them up in 2025.
I see. Uh, what do you actually expect from the current album? How successful do you think it will be? What are your feelings about it?
Well, I let me answer that this way. I'm under no illusions of what My Dying Bride is, and certainly under no illusions of what the world, where we fit in the musical world. So I expect it, I'd at least be pleased with if it's at least well accepted by the My Dying Bride fans themselves. Uh, any wider acceptance after that from the sort of greater heavy metal world will just be a bonus. I mean, we have to be cognizant and aware of we write a very particular type of music that's not for everybody, and I don't really understand why, and I don't really understand why this type of music attracts the people it does. But there's an element out there that love it, and there's an element out there that don't understand it at all, which is fine. So I'm hoping, or hopeful rather, that it's at least, at least as long as the MDB fans understand it and don't think we're doing anything strange, that will do for me. Uh, but Nuclear Blast seem very happy with it. The band are happy with it. I'm happy with it. Uh, and considering we've been going for 33 years, I reckon we have a rough idea how we should go about these things. So I think it'll be okay, but I'm not expecting like awards or suddenly for tours with Metallica and those kind of things. we know where My Dying Bride sits in the world. You know, we pop out from under our rock every now and then we go back under, and we always sit, and we're happy enough with that.
I'm sure that you will do very great results with the new record, and actually I wish you all the best for you and for the band. I still remember when your first EP came out. Oh, it was 30 years ago. Jesus.
Yes,
Yeah.
I was just writing about that earlier today. I'm still trying to. I'm surprised I still remember the title completely. So I mean, it was a strange song for strange times, but it worked. It certainly got the band going.
Actually, it was a dream come true to be able to talk to you. For me, it was a great pleasure, and I would like to thank you for the interview. And I would like, and I would like to wish you all the best for you and for the band, and have a very great evening, and all the best to you.
Well, thank you. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye bye now.
Bye bye. Bye bye.